In this episode of the Texas Private School Podcast, Fox Burton and Country Day reclaim the battle of Bryant Irvin. Langston Davis runs through everyone en route to an Eagle party. Faith and St. Michael score combined 121 points in the greatest shootout of this season. The three-headed monster of Coleman, Liberty, and Stanford shuts out Fort Bend Christian, and Midland silences the entirety of TXPS as they upset Cornerstone 17-14. All this and more in the Week 4 recap of the Texas Private School Podcast. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Texas Private School Podcast. As always, I am one half of your hosting crew, Wes Tolleson. Walker Lott joins me from College Station, Texas, whereas I call in from Dallas, Texas. Ryan Schroeder will not be joining us this afternoon. Apparently, we have other things that we do in our lives, and sometimes the schedules don't always converge. Crazy, I know. We will miss Ryan's insight. I had a great time with him on site at Country Day covering what Walker, to be honest, it might just be ignorance. I never realized how much of a rivalry that was, being that I'm not from Fort Worth, I'm not from the SBC, but because that's your neck of the woods. The energy was palpable there, and it was very, very, very fun, especially seeing all the kids from Country Day stream onto the field after the game. I take it you're familiar with that rivalry. Just what does that mean to you to see that level of energy and passion in TXPS?
It's always a good time. That's kind of always why I kind of poked y'all to be like, okay, you're going to this one, you're going to this one, because I've never been there, and and being absolutely real, I thought SCS's and TVS's rivalry was always a big thing because it was my rivalry, right? But being real, back in the high school days, I was like, I'm a little jealous of what I thought the other rivalry is. And so I'm glad that we got to finally cover Country Day. That was the first time in 5 years of us doing this that we've been able to do that, which is really cool. Um, so yeah, I mean, it was a good game, always a great rivalry. Definitely one of the best in Fort Worth, and definitely one of the best in Texas private school football.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It was a treat to be out there. Thank you to everyone from both the Country Day and TVS sides that made us feel very welcome and at home covering the Bobby, I guess it's colloquially known. That being said, Walker, before we get into the scoreboard,
Yeah,
again, we put the clip out and we said it as well as we could. At least we called it when we
yeah,
said the slate looks sleepy. However, in our opinion, in our experience, whenever we have sleepy slates like this where the games don't look good, the most chaos always happens. Chaos was everywhere. We're getting clowned, which is great. I mean, we love the engagement. I think it's awesome seeing Midland go crazy after the game that we instantly knew was going to happen. And again, we're paying our dues. I'm wearing the Midland polo. Walker's wearing the Midland hat. Walker, I kind of put it to you on the space, but you were very emphatic that Midland would not win this game. We'll get to that when we recap the episode. I'm talking more at the high level of all
yeah.
of the upsets, be it St. John's, be it Grapevine Faith, which we'll get to, be it Midland Christian. Your thoughts on a week full of insanity?
Dude, I don't think we're wrong. We called it technically, so you can't
We
call
did.
us on it. No, but seriously, I mean, it's what Texas, we put in the video, like, never change because it's what it's all about, right? And, it was a whole week of upsets in Texas high school football where, Duncanville loses to Waxahachie, which was a big one. North Crowley loses the Rockwall. And all the big teams and all these giant programs are losing, and that's what makes it so much fun, right? Is you come in every week and you think you're going to win this way. I thought for a good amount of time, for 3 quarters for most of these games, I thought I was about to go undefeated in all of these matchups, and I was going to have a first time undefeated slate. But no, the teams down in Houston and Midland had different plans for me. So it was awesome, man. Very fun weekend. It's just what it's all about. Like, that's what makes Texas high school football so much fun.
No, it definitely is. The sport always brings its own insanity to us each week, and we're just here to cover that and tell you what happens. And we're about to do even more of that whenever we transition to the TXPS Media Football Scoreboard powered. This was Ryan's doing again this week, right? He took it over.
He did.
Fantastic. Always well powered by Mr. Ryan Schroeder. As always, the top 5 games in the left-hand column we will save for further analysis here in a moment. But Walker, I'm actually going to let you start this one because the first one is a big win for your Eagles over Nolan Catholic.
Yeah, it was I was watching this game as much as I could, and I wish I might put up the photo. I had 7 games on it like one time on my monitors and stuff, and I had one game on the TV over here. And I was trying to keep up with everything because my car was in the shop this weekend, and so try to keep up. I decided, I'm gonna watch a lot of football. That's exactly what I did. Um, it was a good one in the first quarter. It was kind of close in the first quarter. Offense for SES looked unstoppable, but then the defense kind of gave up a few touchdowns to Nolan Catholic. The third quarter is what was big. Oh, I also should say Southwest Christian defeats Nolan Catholic
There
49
we
to
go.
13. Third quarter is where Southwest Christian kind of pulled away. I think we were up, I think it was like 21 something, 21-13 or 21-7 at half, and then 35 after the third quarter. I mean, it's where we pulled away. Trey Mosley, this rushing attack is just truly unbelievable. Slade Evans, these guys in the backfield are truly unreal. And Eli Huffsetter is a great quarterback, making sure to know where he needs to go. I'm impressed, man. Every week, SES looks more and more impressive. Yes, Nolan Catholic is not is in kind of purgatory right now, and even with all the guys they have and Aaron Morales and company, they're not there just yet. But Southwest Christian looks better week in and week in and week in, and it is, I believe, the first 4-0 start in 21 years, which is insane for Southwest Christian. And we play Covenant next week, so should be 5-0 for the first time in I don't even know how long more. So good for the Eagles over there in my hometown.
Brother, I would find some wood to knock on. You would assume, but you never know. And I am very superstitious, and statements like that make me nervous. That being said, incredible performance for Southwest Christian. Moving on to another Eagle team, ESD falls to Fort Worth All Saints 35 to 18. But in a game where ESD seemed impressive, I had people from around the space saying that, hey, ESD is actually really good this year. And I know that they are. I'm very excited to see them. I know their quarterback, Miles Link, is very solid, also with receivers like Curtis Mathis, William Elliott, John Edsoa, and others. That being said, All Saints is just a horse. But I'm more excited now, as to your point and other games we've seen around the state, how District 1 and Division 2 has kind of turned into the District of Doom again, with Southwest Christian being good again, with Faith being good, with Midland being great. I think that All Saints obviously is still the favorite, but we have a lot more competition rising from the bottom that I think actually might make some of these games somewhat competitive, which is fun.
Oh, absolutely. Very excited for that. Going to the next game, Austin Regions beats Brownville St. Joseph 59 to 15. This was an interesting one. I was watching the game. It was 21 to 15 at half, and I thought the alarm bells were ringing, and I thought Brownsville was going to come back, and we are going to have to talk a lot of different things, and everything we knew about the South and TAPS Division 2 were going to be thrown out the window. But that second half, man, it was unbelievable. The Mike Elko halftime adjustments that the Regents team did were nothing short of sensational, where they ended up scoring 59 points and 38 unanswered. St. Joseph did not score another point in this one. Stat wise, Jack Devine, 11 of 19, 211 yards and 6 touchdowns. Isaiah Mills had 100 on the ground with a touchdown. Jack Devine had another one on the ground with 70 yards, so 7 touchdowns total for the junior quarterback. Receiving, Blake Smith, of course, had a great night, 137 yards and 3 touchdowns. Cade Millington had two. Cayan Millington had one. Just an overall dominant performance for the Regents Knights. Matthew Robb with a sack, two TFLs or one TFL for Ashton Hopkins and Colin Angelo. Overall, great night for them. That's a good test for them to come back in resilience. I think this has also been the story of this game for the past couple of times they've been playing it, where it's close in the first half and then Austin Regions pulls away in the second. I don't know what witchcraft and all that. I know I keep saying this term week in and week after week, but if something happens, man, the talent for Austin Regions just is insane, and the discipline they have to be like, okay, it's another half of football. We still have more time. It's impressive, man. So shout out to them.
Yeah, definitely. It's a tale as old as time at this point. Speaking of tales as old as time, First Baptist waxes Covenant Christian 49 to 6. I think we're going to see a lot more of that moving forward with First Baptist. And again, that's still not a Division Four team; it's a Division Three team. First Baptist has not played a team on their caliber in Division Four yet, and they've still gone out and performed very, very well. The passing attack from Dylan Jones is still elite. 255 yards through the air, 5 touchdowns, three of those in 145 yards, going to the junior standout Lincoln Schleif, who is one of the best receivers in TXPS, without a doubt, the best in Division Four. And I think more than anything, it's the defensive prowess from First Baptist this year behind guys like George Anagassis, Jade Morales, Camp Pugh, who had 3 tackles for loss. Morales had 2. Corey Thomas had 2. There's so many weapons on this team. Like I said, it's killing ants with a 30 cal at this point. It's going to be really it's no, it's not going to be interesting to see moving forward because they're going to destroy all of Division 4. I know this is rat poison for First Baptist, but I really, really am excited to see just what the ceiling of this team is.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving on to a pretty good game. Cypress Christian beats Bernie Geneva 62-50. This was going to be, we always said that this was probably the toughest game for Cypress this year. Bernie Geneva, we needed to see how legit they are going into Division 3 in the district slate they're about to go into. But Cypress Christian pulls out the win. Braden Dawson went 15 of 24 for 273 and 2 touchdowns, and then 50 yards on the ground with another touchdown. Brian Broadus, the freshman, looked good. Ryu looked good. I wish they were in district, but I know how it is this year. It's a rough slate for them, but whenever they get back into it, I'm excited to see it with their new facilities and new everything, man. But that's a big win for Cypress. With how their schedule looks, that's going to be probably the toughest the rest of the way. For Bernie Geneva, putting up 62 on a what should be a Division two team is impressive. And I know we talk about Holy Cross not having much competition in the South, but hopefully Bernie Geneva can help it a little bit more. So shout out to Coach Alvarado over there, Bernie Geneva, the new DC, I believe. So we'll see how it goes.
Absolutely. Dallas Christian gets back to winning ways, destroying HSAA 45-7. This is more of a return to form for DC as they accounted for 384 rushing yards, 191 for the senior DJ Stanley, 166 for the junior Logan Beck. Stanley had 3 touchdowns on the ground. Beck had 2. This is what you think of when you think DC. I know they've had great talent with guys like Speedy Nettles and company, and then Luke Carney for the passing attack through the years. DC, in their history, primarily is a power run type offense. Very good to see them get back to that. Junior Luke Severd had 204 yards through the air, 109 of those going to the sophomore Dylan Belt, and then also tossed a touchdown to Eli Hanvey, who had 1 reception for 70 yards, which is a pretty good ratio by my judgment. They go and play Pittsburgh next week. Pittsburgh's a pretty solid team out in East Texas, a public school. I don't know what their chances are, but that'll tell us kind of where DC lands before they move into district play.
I thought you just said Dylan Bell, and I was like, did he come back from Georgia? Thought that
No,
was
there's
funny.
a T on the end of that. Dylan Bell didn't. I don't think he's got any eligibility left, and I don't know if he's gonna
No,
go to Mesquite to finish that. But that's
no.
funny.
But shout out to Dylan Bell for killing it at Georgia. Brazos Christian wins 51-6 over Bay Area. From how it looked, Reed Jackson had a great night with 4 touchdowns and an interception. Micah Sachs had a pick six. Not much to say. A big win for the Division Four Power. Excited to see how they do going forward.
Definitely so. Waco Live Oak narrowly escapes Austin Hill Country Christian by a barn burner 6-0 victory. I mean that's a good win for Live Oak. We've been relatively high on them. These are two teams that are pretty new in their respective divisions. I don't know necessarily how they're both going to play out moving forward, but again, Hill Country, like I said, newer squad, not scoring any points, but also holding Live Oak to 6. Not a bad deal. We do need to cover both of these more thoroughly moving forward, but a good win for Live Oak to get the shutout nonetheless.
Absolutely. Going to the next game, Fort Worth Christian wins 47-0 for over Lake Country Christian. Landon Gigliotta goes 13 of 20 for 164 and 2 touchdowns. Kason Andine has a great night on the ground with 19 carries, 118 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Good for him. Senior Luke Robinson leads the way receiving with 59. Jack Garza has a touchdown, and Creighton Chandler is the other one with the touchdown receiving wise. And The biggest thing for me is, Lake Country Christian's not a terribly bad offensive team, and Fort Worth Christian holding them to zero, I think it's the most impressive thing of the night. Show goes to show, I think this team is well rounded this year, and we're very excited to see how they can do, even though they are a Division three team they were facing. But a good win for Fort Worth Christian.
St. Mark's beats TCA Addison by 31 to 29 as star running back David Dixon really seals the deal for the Lions here. We've been high on him all year. St. Mark's, we've gone a little bit back and forth on just because of some early season struggles against teams like Country Day, but they've turned around and they've won three straight versus Cistercian, Green Hill, and TCA. Not three elite teams in the space, but they're getting back to winning ways. I think there's a chance they could still play spoiler, but in a division that is as stacked as SPC 4A, it's going to be interesting. Maybe they can clip a team like Episcopal or St. John's. Even then, going to be interesting. But with guys like David Dixon on your side, you truly, truly always have a chance.
Absolutely. Going to the next game, Holy Cross beats Weimar 38 to 16. This was, I think, a game they lost last year, or was a really close win for them. So they pulled away in this one this year. I think Rocky Orozco went 7 to 10 for 167 and four touchdowns. Crew Hudson had a great night, five receptions, 135 yards, and three touchdowns. Good win for them. Holy Cross kind of showing they're still one of the better teams in Division three in the South, with a win last week over Central Catholic and a win over Weimar this week.
Definitely so. Houston St. Pius waxes Kip Sunnyside 47 to 6. It's just not a whole lot to say here. A good showing by St. Pius versus a team that's smaller, the team that they needed to get a win over. Obviously, you can't talk about this game without talking about the sophomore Trey Finney, who is absolutely electric and came away with three touchdowns on the contest, two through the air, one on the ground. Amir Parks Brooks also had a rushing touchdown as the senior Noah Carrasco throws for 180 yards and no interceptions. Very, very good win for St. Pius, a team that we are still very high on in the D1 South.
Absolutely. Go to the next one. John Paul II beats Green Hill 21 to 14. John Paul, back-to-back wins, I believe. Cade Lynch, the quarterback over there, goes 13 of 16 for 225 and a passing touchdown, 65 yards on the ground, and another touchdown. Great win for them, man. I'm excited to see how they do. Braden Harbor, the 2027 wide receiver, had a great night too. 10 receptions, 210 yards receiving, and one touchdown. Shout out to the kid. Big win for them. I think that's back-to-back wins for them. And they are now 3-1 on the season, which I'm excited to see. They play St. Mark's, which is going to be an interesting one next week. Coram Deo, Bay Area. Seems like they'll if they can keep it up, should have a winning record, which is really, really good. I don't remember last year. Last year went 4-6. I definitely think they can bounce back in this year. Very excited to see how they can do.
I would have to agree. Central Texas Christian destroys Austin Lassa 62 to 7 behind 55 first half points and three pick sixes. Again, I know that we hyped up First Baptist to all this point that they're going to kill everyone in D4. If anyone's going to step to them, I think it's Austin Evans and Central Texas Christian. I'm very, very high on what they have done so far this season. I don't think we're going to figure out just how close these two squads are until they inevitably meet late in the playoffs. But that being said, going to be interesting.
Parish Episcopal beats Austin LBJ 55 to 22 and a big win for them. Looking on the game, it was Marcus Hanish night. 19 carries, 132 yards, and two touchdowns. Jonathan Phillips with four touchdowns. Jackson McKinney, the sophomore running back, with a touchdown as well. Good for them, man. They start 3-1 on the year. I'm excited to see how they can continue and grow, but they start district play next week with a team in Frisco and playing at Frisco next week in Frisco Legacy, which is going to be an interesting one to see how they kind of stack up and if they're still a dominant team in Division One.
Definitely so. Lutheran South bests Anahuac 23 to 7 behind 81 rushing yards from sophomore stud Cortez Taylor and two passing touchdowns from senior Holt Teichman. Both of those going to senior Noah Harris and then senior Kate Griffin. It's impressive to me to be able to see guys not named Asia Bradford and Braden Robinson step up for Lutheran South. We still are unsure how long those guys are going to be sidelined. You would hope that it's going to be back sooner rather than later, looking at the slate coming up. That being said, we're proving other guys can step up. I still think the Pioneers have a good shot to make some noise in District 4.
Absolutely. Next game, Oak Ridge puts 60 on Cistercian to open up SPC 3A play. 60 to 21 final. Looked like Kingston Parks scored one. Caleb Walton scored one. Uh, yeah, maybe two, maybe three. Looks like Caleb Walton had a pretty good game. Yeah, maybe like 5 touchdowns for him. I'm just kind of going through the score tracker, so I don't really know the exact number on the top of my head, but good win for them to start opening play. This is where the fun begins for Oak Ridge, right? Where they have a couple games, Star Wars reference there, where they have a couple games coming up with a big one against Houston Christian at Houston Christian this upcoming week. Might be there. I don't know. We're still trying to figure out this slate. I'll have to talk to you, Wes, because it's going to be an interesting slate. But a good start for Oak Ridge. I think they're undefeated. What more do you want from the team from Arlington?
I don't think you can ask for much more. Speaking of Houston Christian, the Mustangs defeat St. Andrews 42 to 10. I don't have a whole lot to say here. I mean, it's Houston Christian's first win of the season. They quite frankly needed to do this to St. Andrews. I was speaking to several people at Oak Ridge TVS, just flat out saying, I have no idea where Houston Christian's at this year. I really like Coach Eisenman and their staff. I know, regardless of the athletes they have there, the culture and the development, they will have guys ready to play. I just don't know who the individual names are at this point in time. A 3-point loss to St. Pius looks good. Narrow losses to St. John's and a large one to Lutheran South is iffy. All that to say is, like you said, we're going to figure out very quickly what the landscape of 3A looks like in this game, because the way it stands for me right now, I think it's Oak Ridge and Country Day at the top, and that's likely the two teams you're going to see in the finals. It's an uphill battle for TVS moving forward, and Houston Christian, really, if they want any shot to make a title game, they need to go out and beat Oak Ridge in this next contest. But we will save all of that for further analysis when it's time. That being said, Walker, the last game we have to cover before we move.
Yeah, Kincaid beats Rockport Fulton 42 to 24. A big win over a public school team. Ross Wynn goes 14 of 21, 198 and 3 touchdowns. Wayne Shanks on the ground goes 17 carries, 120 yards and 3 touchdowns. Leading the way receiver was Alex Donnelly with 69 yards. Drake Olson, the sophomore, with 2 touchdowns. Holden Jones with another touchdown. Good night for them. Now let's get into SPC 4A play, which I believe is not this week, but the week afterwards, because I think Kincaid plays Second Baptist this week. Should be a lot of fun.
That they do, and it absolutely will be. That being said, that is the entirety of the TXPS Media Football Scoreboard, powered by Ryan Schroeder on these fine Friday nights. Before we move into our 5 games of the week, we have a special treat that will be Minute with the Interns.
The Midland Christian Mustangs hosted Cornerstone Christian's Warriors last Friday in a close matchup. The Mustangs got it done, winning it in the last few seconds of the game. However, it was not a lack of trying by Cornerstone that made them lose. They came into this game starting off quite aggressive, scoring twice in the second quarter, leading 14-0 at the half. But the Warriors just could not get it done against Midland's attack defense. Early in the third quarter, Mustang Cutter Smith gets a pick six to really help the momentum going for Midland. The Mustangs really started to figure out what they were doing and what they wanted to run and started to play lights out, with quarterback Jackson Franco throwing at the class of 2028 receiver Holt Brownlee to tie the game up 14-14 late in the fourth quarter. After an impressive onside kick, the Mustangs get their ball back in their territory for class of 2028 kicker Drew Buckingham to kick a 23-yard field goal to seal the deal for the Mustangs. Cornerstone Christian unfortunately falls 2-2 after this hard-fought game.
In a big Houston matchup between the SBC St. John's and the TAPS D2's Second Baptist. Second Baptist came on top after a masterclass by Langston Davis, 2026 running back. With a final score of 49-48, that game ended up going to overtime. Second Baptist gets its first win of the season before they host Kincaid, in which should be a very big matchup. And St. John's falls to 2-2 on the season before facing LSA this week, or Lutheran South.
This past Friday, we got to see an amazing game between St. Mark's and Trinity Christian. Trinity Christian's offensive attack was electric. They had over 300 yards through the air and 3 scores. Chase Griffin with 150 of those yards. and one of those scores. But it ultimately wasn't enough as St. Mark's defense came through once again. They've been averaging 14 points allowed per game the past 3 games, and they've won all of those coming off their big loss to Fort Worth Country Day. But ever since then, St. Mark's has looked unstoppable. They now go on. They are 3-1. Then they go on to face John Paul II, coming off a 21-14 victory against Green Hill. And then Trinity Christian will go on to face a 1-2 with a losing record, Liberty Christian, who will start their first ever game this season in a private school. That's all for today. We'll see you next time on Minute with the Interns.
Fort Bend Christian Academy Eagles took on the Concordia Lutheran Crusaders and ended up losing 20-0 in Tomball, Texas. It was a very defensive game. In the first quarter, we saw 3-and-out, back-to-back. Really no offensive plays at all being made in that first quarter of the game. And then we saw Concordia start to get on a little bit of a roll until Ryan Nedick fumbled the ball at the 20-yard line caused by Gio Gonzalez, the sophomore linebacker for the Fort Bend Christian Academy Eagles. After that, we saw another 3-and-out from the Eagles, and then quarterback Ryan Nedick really started to get in sync with his receivers, using Malik Liberty a lot out of the backfield as well. And then we saw Malik Liberty have a touchdown from the 1-yard line, had a very wide open hole. A great job by the Concordia offensive line to really just open up that hole and let him just walk into the end zone. After that, we saw a 3-and-out from the Eagles, and then we saw quarterback Ryan Nedick air one out for Jackson Coleman, who made an incredible catch and then ended up stiff-arming the Eagles corner and just walking into the end zone for an incredible 60-yard touchdown for the Crusaders. Then later in the game, we had a very quiet third quarter. Nothing really happened at all. Fourth quarter came around, very quiet until the very end. We saw Ryan Nedick on a play fake, supposed to be a pass into the end zone, ended up just taking it himself and running it in to make the score 20-0, and that was our final.
So thank you yet again to all of our fantastic contributions from the TXPS Media interns. You see them posting various angles of coverage on Friday nights, writing articles, taking pictures, doing graphic design, bringing you the coverage on the spaces, the episodes. They truly do a lot while also balancing school, social life, activities, things like that. Really, really impressive to have these crop of interns on for the season. That being said, Walker, the last segment that we have to get through for the episode is reviewing our 5 games of the week from Friday. And we're going to start with the game that Ryan and I were live and on site for. That was Fort Worth Trinity Valley versus Fort Worth Country Day. This season's rendition of the Battle of Bryant Irvin did not disappoint, going down to the wire as Country Day tops Trinity Valley 21-20. All-conference running back Tappan Bailey opened this one up by bouncing the option to the outside and ultimately sprinting 50 yards to the end zone. However, junior quarterback Cooper Paul and the Falcons would instantly respond, throwing a bomb to sophomore Major Factor and then a quick strike to sophomore William Stadler for the score, putting the Falcons ahead 8-6. TVS would then dink and dunk their way down the field, and junior running back Princeton Cunningham would muscle his way from the 3-yard line to push the Trojans back ahead 14-8. TVS would have an opportunity to move ahead by 2 scores following an interception by Charlie Bulach, but the drive would stall, and senior running back Fox Burton would bulldoze a defender on the goal line to push the Falcons back ahead 15-14. For a dude that's probably 5'10", 160 pounds soaking wet, Burton packs a heck of a punch. He is a great, great player to watch. The defenses really emerged in the second half with big plays by guys like Logan Francis, Ronnie Cunningham, Thomas Blunser, Major Factor, and Nick Watkins, just to name a few. But Fox Burton would break the scoreless quarter with his second rushing touchdown of the contest, pushing the Falcon lead to 21-14. Senior Fulton Weaver would immediately record an interception on the ensuing drive, but the Falcons would not capitalize off of this. And then it was really what could only be described as the Tolbert drive. At least 5 quarterback runs, an insane juke stick to get to the doorstep, and ultimately a read option keeper to slide into the end zone and gave the Trojans an opportunity to tie this one up with under 5 minutes left in the fourth. But the Trojans would ultimately go for the jugular and fail on the 2-point try as they would trail by 1 deep into the final quarter. Country Day would ultimately chew 4 minutes and 20 seconds off the clock, and following a punt and failed lateral-laden final heave, the Falcons would retake this streak for the first time in 3 years. Cooper Paul was really impressive, taking over quarterback duties for the Falcons. He went 17 for 22 with 228 passing yards. Kanan Factor, who I initially thought had a quieter game than this, actually had 5 receptions for 64 yards to lead the Falcons. Major Factor had 2 receptions for 57 yards. 7 guys recorded a catch for Country Day, really just showing the effectiveness of this air attack. You pair that with Fox Burton's rushing ability and the Falcons, you can now see why they're one of our favorites to make the 3A title game. Walker Lott, ultimately, this game was really close. Just seeing Tappan Bailey immediately take that rush 50 yards to the end zone made me think, okay, TVS might actually embarrass all of us here, but it was a tug of war, it was a back and forth contest. Ultimately, the failed 2-point conversion comes back to bite Trinity Valley as Country Day puts themselves in the driver's seat for a potential SPC 3A title berth. It's crazy to say that this early in the season, and I'm sure I'm overstepping that a little bit, but in my opinion, that really, really sets them up nicely. Your thoughts on this contest and the wider implications in SPC?
No, yeah, I'm just glad we got it right, because that it seems like the game could have gone either way. If they get the 2-point conversion, we are getting flamed on social media right now, even more than we are. And that's what it's all about. Like I'm going back to that point. I'm just like, that's what it's all about. That's a fun game. It's a rivalry game. Probably in most non-rivalry games, do you not go just settle? You probably settle for the extra point, go into overtime and call it a day. But they went for it. They're like, no, we're gonna beat them on their turf and try, and they just didn't succeed. It comes down to sometimes just one play, and they just didn't get it. Which, looking forward, right, we still think Oak Ridge are the favorites in this division. So TVS has to basically run the slate now, right? They have to beat the Houston Christians. They have to play it close. Like, I don't think they can get in with 2 losses, right? Because I think if Country Day wins all, and besides the Oak Ridge game, for example, they're in, right? So they need to run the slate now, and that's hard to do in SPC 3A. So chaos will ensue. Trinity Valley's going to have a tough slate of them, and Country Day they have to be major focus going forward, but they can ease a little bit in knowing that, all right, we have the win over one of the teams that might make it to state. So if you can beat the Oak Ridges, if you can beat the Houston Christians, should be a good year for Country Day.
I agree with that. And from a straight line assumption, all that makes sense, but this is the SPC we're talking about. So inevitably, we're going to get to like week 8 of the season and we're going to have Jack Klosek. It's like that scene from A Beautiful Mind where all the numbers are everywhere. And we're like, if this happens and this happens, they beat them by 2 and they beat them by 3, then maybe Green Hill's actually back in the title game. It's just, it's what I love about the sport, because we can sit here and make all these really neat, precise guesses and estimates. And ultimately, none of it matters, which is why I think it's so fun. That being said, what I can say is that win sets up Country Day really nicely and puts TVS in an uphill battle to make it back to that title game for I think what would be the 3rd consecutive year, maybe 4th. I'm not sure. My math is bad. That being said, we will move down to Houston to recap our next game, which we sadly were not correct on. Second Baptist versus Houston St. John's. Langston Davis had an insane effort on the ground for the Eagles, going for 227 on 32 carries and 4 touchdowns. Sophomore quarterback Casey Dunn also impressed, tossing for 229 yards off of a 65% completion rate, with 111 of those going to his quarterback room compatriot Cannon Toon. As for St. John's, Shea Quinn threw for 212 and 2 touchdowns to Carson Murray and Colton Blossom. And in what seems like a theme this week, junior running back Hanley Sayers runs absolutely wild to the tune of 274 yards and 4 touchdowns. That's almost 300 yards. Did every linebacker in the state go on strike this week? Did I miss something? How are these running backs doing this? All that to say, it's a great, great win for Second Baptist, 49-48 ultimately over St. John's. Got to shout out Cannon Toon for getting out there playing wide receiver. It's not just like, oh man, like, I'm put myself like I'm hurt, I can't play quarterback. I'm just gonna like stand on the sideline and get the guys riled up. And he's like, no, I know how to play receiver. I know all the routes because I'm the quarterback. I'm gonna go out and contribute where I can. And ultimately, it's one of the reasons you win this game and you stay alive. A couple of things I think are true here. I think we grossly overreacted to the ESD and Fort Worth Christian losses, as both of those we now know are very good football teams. but I still don't think Second Baptist is necessarily going to be in the driver's seat in that district. And that's just because a team named the Woodlands Christian Academy exists, and we're really, really high on that team right now. But I think there is still a chance that Second Baptist can upset a couple teams and play their way into it. It's all very confusing. Walker, and I know the way you think at this point. I like to think that you would agree with all those statements in that TWCA is still the favorites. Lutheran South is now questionable with the injuries and things like that, although they're still very good. They're probably pretty much on par with Second Baptist. So I want your opinion if you agree that I think both things are true in that Second Baptist, we overreacted to the downfall of. They're still decent. Also, still probably a solid second, maybe third in that district. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there. I mean, everything makes sense. ESD after playing pretty close to All Saints this week. I mean, like, okay, that makes more sense of that loss. Fort Worth Christian without and also ESD that loss without Kennington receiver or quarterback, right? That makes more sense. Fort Worth Christian looks like a top team in Division II this year. But yeah, I think TWC is still in the driver's seat. LSA, that game is going to get interesting. I think it's at LSA too, which is going to be more interesting. Can they play into it and cause a little chaos? Absolutely, right? I think they can get into the second round of the playoffs, right? Because of they always have to play the teams from that Division 3 or District 3, and I think they'll go the whole district will go undefeated, right, against District 3. So I think they'll make the second round, and then can they beat a LSA again? Can they beat a TWCA again? Maybe. You never know. So it's going to be very interesting to see. I think, by the way, one thing to mention about this game, they went into overtime, right? And St. John's lost this because they bobbled the snap on the extra point in overtime. And then that's the reason they got the ball first. They went down and scored, bobbled the snap on the hold, then get the extra point, and then Second Baptist went down and scored, just kicked the extra point to win it. Like we saw in the A&M game, sometimes it comes down to the extra point, and that's what you saw in this one, which is heartbreaking for St. John's because they had that win in the back. They were up by like 14 in the fourth, man. It was, that should have been their game. Second Baptist, this is a monumental win for them to kind of go back, right? When we talked about it at the Fort Bend last year of like, they just needed that spark to rejuvenate themselves. Hopefully, Second Baptist, this happened in week 4. Yes, they play Kincaid next week, which is going to be a tough game to play. But they see like, okay, we can win games. We have the talent, and with Langston Davis running the rock like he did, I wanted to mention him because there was a big run for him in like the second or third that it was like 50 yards, broke a couple tackles. Like he's an all-state running back for a reason. If he can keep it up, man, they have a good season ahead of him.
Yeah, I definitely think so. You got to feel for St. John's here because it's like the thing last year too, where they've got that game pretty much in the bag, and the Cannon Tune says, "Nope, you're not winning. We are." And it seems like more or less the same here. Even more heartbreaking with the bobbled hold. I'm just very fortunate that Ryan's not on this episode because he has made his thoughts about some of the special team snafus in TXPS well known, and thank the Lord we don't have to deal with that on this episode. That being said, big win.
I want to mention one last thing is. I want to mention the kicker, Luke Normad, the sophomore kicker. He made a 42-yarder in this one right before halftime, I believe. From what I've heard around the thing, especially with Bryden at the helm, that's going to be the next Will Stone for him. So that's going to be a big-time kicker to watch. And, I mean, those points got them to tie the game to go in overtime. So big kicker alert down there in Houston. Just want to shout him out.
Definitely so. Any comparison to Will Stone means you have high expectations, whether it be at Regents or Second Baptist. So that's going to be very interesting to watch as we progress. But we will now progress into the next game that we have to cover. And this one was a doozy. Grapevine Faith at Austin St. Michael's. I mean, this could quite literally be the most beautiful game of the entire season. Unless, of course, you're a defensive coordinator, in which case, turn this episode off immediately for fear that you might become nauseous at the stats I'm about to read you. 1,200 yards of total offense, 121 points. Walker, say the line.
Points. Points.
All the points. It's hard for me to even wrap my brain around that. Senior quarterback Austin Cosby threw for 406 yards and 5 touchdowns, 3 to guess who? Noah Smith. who had 140 yards on only 6 receptions and 2 touchdowns to senior Jacob Montez. Charlie Bunch and Jace Walker also had 96 yards and 81 respectively. Senior running back Mateo Sherpa went ballistic with 192 rushing yards and only 17 carries and 3 touchdowns, as Noah Smith, Jace Walker, and Walker Little also recorded rushing scores. As for St. Michael's, Nico Anderson shined with 5 touchdowns and 439 yards passing, throwing 3 to Andres Patino, who had 238 yards and 3 touchdowns, and Pierce Kovacs, who had 2 on 150 yards. Pause for breath. The score ended up being 77-44 in favor of Grapevine Faith. 77 is the most points Faith has ever scored in a football game, with Max Prep's data going back to 2004. I think they started football in 99, so unless they scored 78 between 99 and 04, that stat's wrong. I'm guessing that it's probably not. Walker, this is quite frankly just insane, just because Faith, as we've mentioned, has been a little bit down over the past couple years, and St. Michael's went out and almost beat one of the better teams in SBC 4A, traditionally Episcopal, last year. So we're like, okay, yeah, they're going to be really solid. And then Grapevine Faith drops an 80 bomb on them. We knew Cosby was good. We knew that Noah Smith was really good. I didn't know they were good to the tune of 77 points.
Yeah.
I'm curious your opinion on Faith. I'm more curious to the question that we raised at the beginning of the episode. With the resurgence of Faith, with Southwest Christian, with Midland Christian, with Fort Worth Christian, All Saints obviously being there, is the District of Doom back in TAPS Division 2?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's finally back, especially with District 4 kind of being right this year, with some things just happening. It's absolutely going to be true. That district's going to be a bloodbath, which is a lot of fun. It always has been. Back when I played, there were 2 state champions in back-to-back years in one district, which is just awful to say, right? Like, that is the level this district has always been. I don't even think there's 1 through 5 in that district, right? Where All Saints, Midland, Fort Worth Christian, SES, and Grapevine, 1 through 5. None of those are going to be easy games. TCS Lubbock is always the interesting one. I don't think they'll compete in this district this year, but you never know, right? They've always had that West Texas grip. But those 5 teams are going to be impossible to play against each other. This was an interesting one. I tried to watch this game, and the live stream on the St. Mike's Prep website like cut off after 20 minutes, and I was like, okay. I tried to get back on a couple times, didn't work. I said, all right, screw it, whatever. And then I had it sent to me later in the episode, like in the 4th quarter. I turned it on and I said, "Is that 77 points?" And it was crazy. Man, Grapevine Faith, even in the bad years, these past couple years, they've always had a great offense. Like when Clayton Sebecki was at the helm, man, that he could score at will. It was just the defense that was kind of lacking, but technically defense wasn't there in this one either. But the thing is, right, sometimes if you can have a better offense than you can defense and just score more points than the other team, that's the object of the game, right? To score more points than the other team. And if Grapevine Faith can do that, you never know what can happen. Cause a little bit of chaos. But shout out to Cosby. Noah Smith's a dude. Charlie Bunch is an awesome receiver as well. I think I'll end with this. It is hilarious that the lowest guy you mentioned has 81 yards receiving, and I think that's hilarious. It's a great bit.
It truly is. I mean, in the 2 games that Faith has played this year, they scored 55 and 77. They've got Atlas Homeschool next week, which, to be honest, might be another 80 burger. I don't know where the train stops. They got Lake Country Christian. They can probably put some points on, and then they roll into All Saints on the 10th of October. I am really, really curious to see where the stopping point is for this insane offense. And we're going to see really quickly with All Saints if that's going to pass the smell test there. But all that being said, I'm very excited to see that it's not just a 1-team race in District 1 this year. It's going to be very, very fun to watch. With that being said, we will move back to Houston as we see Fort Bend Christian take on Concordia Lutheran. Shout out to Bradley Hanna for the fantastic coverage. Both him and Rhett did a great job, whether that be mocking up the guys pregame or their halftime assessment, where I built probably a quarter of the script off of. So, guys, thank you. Really appreciate your hard work.
I thought you were there, right? I thought.
Apparently, people are now confusing me and Bradley Hanna. Which, Walker, I also got confused for you at at Country Day. So I don't know what's going on at this
Yeah.
point. I think everyone's confused everyone on the podcast at some point in time. None of us are individuals. We're all just one giant entity. Don't call me Wes at any of these games. Don't call Walker Walker. Just say TXPS and we'll turn, and that
Yeah.
will be how we.
You know what I always get, just to cut you off for a second, I always get, oh, that's the Taps guy. Like he think like people think we are Taps, and I think that's hilarious, which we are.
Sure. Yeah, we're just don't tell anyone at the heads of Taps that we said that. But yeah, for all practical purposes, we are Taps. We are SBC.
when realignment comes out in October, we do it.
No. I don't want that tied back. I don't want that all state or any rules or regulations tied back to us. Just the good parts of it.
Right.
That being said, back to the game. This game started as a defensive slugfest, 4 straight 3-and-outs to start. Then Concordia fumbles on their goal line, and it would remain scoreless until senior standout running back Malik Liberty would punch it in from the 1 with 4.5 minutes remaining in the first half. The second head of the Hydra would emerge just 2 minutes later as junior wideout Jackson Coleman would make a beautiful midair adjustment to reel in a bomb from junior quarterback Ryan Nadeek and throw a mean stiff arm as he completed his 50-yard end zone sprint. Defensive prowess would reemerge in the third as the third head would make an impact with a diving interception by senior defensive back Rome Stanford, who we have raved about since the kid was a freshman. This would turn the Eagles over at midfield. Sophomore defensive back Brant Probst would return the favor with an interception of his own for Fort Bend, but the Eagles would promptly return the pigskin to the Crusaders as Ryan Nadeek would find his way into the end zone, cementing this one as a 22-0 shutout for the Crusaders. Obviously not great for Fort Bend. Not having 6'9", 340 Aaron Howe on the offensive line is really seeming to affect the Eagles' offensive flow and forcing undue pressure on Cole Whidden. Walker, I mean, they've got guys like T2, like Whidden, but over the past couple weeks, it seems like the offense has really grinded to a halt for the Eagles. I know Cole had some problems with injuries in weeks past, and now not having Aaron Howe, as he mentions, really struggling. They're going to have to get things going pretty quickly here as they move into district play. Concordia, although, I think the bigger story here is Concordia is a good football team. I think their defense came out and played very well. And then, like we said on the space, it's that 3-headed monster of Liberty, Coleman, and Stanford that really go out and become the engine of your team, whether that's on offense or defense. Jackson Coleman is, I say Lincoln Schleif is one of my favorite receivers. Coleman is as well. That dude is nasty and does not get enough shine. All that being said, your thoughts on Concordia getting a big shutout over the Eagles?
Yeah, a couple things. One, I think it's cool that now Jackson wears 4 like Lou Lamar did back in the day. I hope they pass down that number just from people to people of like the absolute dog in their team. But yeah, the three-headed thing, I'm gonna call it the Cerberus. Isn't that the 3-headed dog in lore?
I think it is because I was trying to think of this before.
Right.
I know Hydra's not 3 heads; it just keeps sprouting heads. But it's
Right.
I thought of the
one
3-headed
and-
meme,
yeah.
the dragon meme. I was like, it's close enough.
No, yeah, King Ghidorah. Shout out King Ghidorah, the Godzilla monster. That's the 3-headed dragon thing. I'm a nerd. What can I say? Anyways, yeah, I mean, when they have those 3 guys, they're gonna be competing in games, and especially with Taps D1 being as weird as ever in the South, you never know. Defensively, this was awesome for them. I like that they shut out them. I think on the flip side, though, Fort Bend Christian holding this offense with this explosiveness to 20 points is kind of impressive, right? Their defense is going to keep them in games, I think, a little bit. Shout out to Coach Mack and those guys over there on the defensive staff holding the line. That's what you kind of wanted to see going into district, especially teams like Lutheran South, where they're without their explosive players. Maybe they can keep them in games because of that, right? But you got to score points, and Fort Bend Christian not scoring 1 point of offense in this one is kind of terrifying going forward. I trust them with Cole Wett and T2 and other guys, Donnie Avery, to make things happen. So they just have to make things happen. But didn't see it in this one. So shout out Concordia Lutheran. Those guys are going to be unbelievable. When I watched the game, Malik Liberty looked impressive. Man, he's a tough physical runner. I'm very excited to see how he goes forward. Rome Stanford making plays. I love Jackson Coleman, man. I think he's just so game changing as a player, man. He, like you said, like he just makes things happen. And that's it. if he was on Parrish or one of these other teams, man, we'd be talking about him week after week after week. But because he's down there in Tomball and still going to be an all-state athlete on both sides of the ball, um, I, dude, he's a dude, man. And we talked a lot about the St. Pius receivers, which they probably are the two best receivers in the state and in that district. Jackson Coleman is right there with him, man. He's an absolute dude. But yeah, big win for Concordia. Shout out to them. Shout out to the Cerberus, and shout out to Fort Bend.
Yeah, definitely so. Shout out to the Cerberus. Shout out to Jackson Coleman, who now the Jackson Coleman fan club grows by 2 more members if we weren't already in that. The last game we're going to cover is Midland Christian at Cornerstone Christian. Walker, I'm going to let you take this one away, actually, because you were watching.
Yeah.
You were do what?
Why would you hand it off to me? I don't know.
Because you were the one with 8 screens in front of you, and you could do this game much better justice than I could.
I thought you were about to say, oh, you also said a couple things on the last episode.
See, I'm not that mean, and I would actually never do that. Now you're putting words in my mouth. Although that was part of the intention, I just didn't say it.
Gotcha. I appreciate that, letting me do it. I'll hand up. I was wrong. I was wrong. I'm a man. I can admit when I was wrong, right?
Are you 40?
I'm 40. Well, that man, he's about to be fired. Sorry, Ryan Schroeder's not here. That's not, we can say that.
Bad football team.
Anyways, yeah, I think it's interesting, man. This was probably the biggest upset of the season so far. Pure shock, right? What a game in San Antonio for the Mustangs. Pure Mustang magic. Shout out Brandon Bunson for saying that. I'm going to use that forever now. Midland came away the big underdogs, of course, right? And we're out a ton of weapons, including Stacey Jones for the whole week. But somehow he made his way to San Antonio and was playing in this one. Looking at this game, Cornerstone kind of had the talent that we all knew about. And with a couple big plays, they took the lead in the first half, 14-0, with 2 big touchdowns from Mateo Rodriguez to Kentucky commit Davis McCray. The defensive line for Cornerstone played great, highlighted by Azam Pacotes. They looked great, right? The big plays happened. The defense, kept them to 14 of Midland, but, the big plays happened. They looked like, okay, Cornerstone is the team we thought. They were going to pull away in the second half, and that's the game. But in the third quarter is where the Mustang defense came to play, and the tide started to change, right? Senior Cutter Smith undercuts a route and runs it back for the pick 6 to make it 14-7 in the third. Everything's starting to shift. And we already talked about it a little bit, but even though they were playing great all game, somewhere in the fourth quarter, this Mustang defense truly became unreal. And this unit, led by defensive coordinator Chris Stonedale, truly became a stone wall. Right? No better way of showing this than when Cornerstone had a 1st and goal at the 1-yard line in the fourth quarter and came away with nothing. This defense is definitely for real, led by Isaiah Matthews and the 2 linebackers and Coy Hayes and Brady Young. This defense is absolutely legit. Just unbelievable. Going more in the fourth quarter, finally the Mustangs get the final shot of the night with around 3 minutes-ish left. Jackson Franco and the offense drove down the field and scored on a comeback route from Franco to Holt Brownlee, who evades the tackle and runs it into the end zone. Okay, now what do you do? 20 seconds left on the clock, right after the touchdown. What do? Do you go for 2? Maybe, right? But Dawson decides not to go for 2 and let them kick the extra point. But Dawson decides to do something even crazier and decides to onside it. And with a perfect bounce between the first and the second lines, sophomore Grayson Jones recovers it, and actually he returns it all the way for 6. I was going crazy. You should have seen this chat. It was going insane. But of course, in high school and maybe college, I don't know, you can't return it, right? The ball is down with 26 seconds to go, around the 40, around the 30 for the Cornerstone, around the Cornerstone 30. Then, first play, Jackson Franco finds a long pass to Maddox Crow to around the 10-yard line. 2 plays later to drain the clock to let Buckingham be where he wanted on the field. Then the sophomore Andrew Buckingham, snap, hold, kick, bang, ices the game, and Midland sneaks away from San Antonio with the win.
Take that, Ryan Schroeder.
Just, It was unbelievable. I mean, pure Mustang magic. I don't know how else to say it, man. Shout out to the Mustangs, man. It is everything you want to see from this team, right? Offensively, they did it when it mattered, right? And defensively, I don't know there's a better defensive unit in the state. We always say Kincaid. Kincaid's amazing, but Cornerstone holding this Cornerstone team to 14 points, that's dang impressive. Did Parrish even do that? I don't even think Parrish did that.
No, they didn't.
So just unbelievable effort from this Midland Christian defense. They solidify they're a top 10 team in TXPS. Um, I'm just so impressed. I mean, there's no other way to say it. Truly unbelievable. This is what you expect. The West Texas grit came to play in this one. What more can I say? Phil Dawson. The fact that he said, all right, I'm gonna kick it. Wait, I'm just gonna kick it and then go to onside, which is even, I think, the even crazier option of the two. What, right? Because going for two, that's ball game, right? Onside, you can maybe get it again. But just settling for the onside, I think, is even crazier, right? Because then it's easier for them to go down and score and kick the field. Yes, that's my logic. Yes, it is a crazier option for Phil Dawson to go for the onside than go for two. And he did it because he trusted his team. Shout out to I'm gonna guess Buckingham did the onside too. What a 5 minutes for the kid. Unbelievable. Phil Dawson, what a hire from Midland Christian. We always knew Phil Dawson was a heck of a coach, and what he's instilled with in 4 games, man, that's what you want to see. That is a game, that's a program changing, like, all right, follow the culture, what this guy's trying to do game. So shout out to Midland Christian, shout out to Phil Dawson. Keep going, Wes.
Now, to that point, I will also eat crow on another level here, because whenever Midland Christian hired Dawson, I went and I said, they've had several coaches in the past, whether it's Chris Cunningham or Greg McClendon, that have been like Mount Rushmore type figures. And I was just like, I don't know if like Dawson's going to fit that mold. Dead wrong up to this point. I have eaten crow many times on this show, and I'm happy to do so again whenever you see performances like this. I mean, between him and Stonedale's defense, the main stats that I can take away from this game are from the Cornerstone side. So, running back Jalen McCain, 15 carries, 56 yards, nothing really doing. Kentucky commit Davis McCray, 3 receptions, 26 yards. Yeah, 2 of them went for touchdowns, but if you can hold the Kentucky commit to 26 total yards receiving, you're going to take that if you're the Mustangs.
And that's probably 2 fades? Like,
yeah, it's got to be like 2 goal line fades. And honestly, with a bunch of undersized secondary guys trying to defend them, you will take that all day. It's just it proves just how well of a system they had, how well of a game plan they implemented in the week leading up to it. And it's just super, super impressive. Guys like Bo Burkholder stepping up to really make that stuff happen. Again, this just plays into the fact that District 1 in Division 2 is going to be an absolute bloodbath week in and week out. I already am looking forward to Midland heading to All Saints on the 24th, because if we somehow get in a spot where both those teams are undefeated moving into that game, I really do think that is a game of the year type situation. But again, you look, and that's been the theme of this episode, like I mentioned, just how good District 1 is. SCS, much improved with Trey Mosley. Fort Worth Christian, Tucker Ashford in the game, Landon Gigliotta, Cade Cropholler, really, really good. All Saints, no explanation needed. Faith just coming up and deciding to play the best offense in the entire district. Trinity Christian, yeah, we'll see. With those top level teams, I mean, it's a murderer's row, and I'm a broken record saying it, but it's going to be incredibly fun to watch as the season goes on. Walker Lott, a ton of good stuff on this episode. Before we get out of here, anything else you want to add to the program?
I am circling. Speaking of that District of Doom, I am circling that Southwest Christian Midland Christian game. If somehow I find a way that they can get me up to Midland, I will go. And I'll be a villain. I will. I'll root for my guys.
No. Now you're giving them less incentive to get you out there.
Because then you can say it to me in person, and that's even better.
Oh, that is true. That's good content for
exactly.
both of us.
So I think that week I'd love to be there. Firstly, if anyone is watching from Midland and wants me there, I will go.
Walker, is this just payback for all of the Midland Christian student sections in basketball being very mean to Southwest Christian when y'all went up there?
Yes, absolutely. But truly, what a week. We can wrap it up here. What a week. Shout out to this. Shout out to Midland Christian, always repping y'all. The community up there is amazing, and they absolutely deserve this. It's just awesome, man. What a week. Point close games, show standout performances. I mean, just another great week of Texas high school football.
You truly cannot ask for anything more. I'm incredibly excited to start looking at and building the week 5 preview slate. I don't think it's going to be a sleepy week. So thankfully
No.
that means we have less opportunity to get absolutely clowned
Dude,
on.
the H-Town matchups in this one, I'll talk to you about it off right after this. The H-Town matchups this week, it was kind of, we talked about a lot of big games up where you are. H-Town is where it's at this week. Unbelievable matchups.
It's going to be filthy, and we will be back in your feeds on Thursday evening to break all of it down and give you our picks that will inevitably be mostly wrong. That being said, as always, I'm one half of your hosting crew, Wes Tolleson. Walker Lott has fantastically been himself. We will see you in the next episode. See you later.